This is an amazing photograph because it was taken in the first decade of Winogrand's career. In it is almost all of the themes that would obsess him for the rest of his life. And it embraces both a sense of humor, but also this sense of strangeness or sort of savagery. People had no idea that they were being photographed by him. He was very stealth, and he didn't just take the camera up to his face and hold it there for a long time.
Garry Winogrand was born in the Bronx, northern district of New York City in 1928. It was just before the Wall Street crash and the beginning of the Great Depression. The Bronx was a large proletarian district of New York. Garry Winogrand's parents were both immigrants to the United States. He went to Columbia University. As soon as he arrived there, he was introduced to the darkroom and loaned a camera by a friend, and almost immediately began photographing to the exclusion of everything else.
At this time, this picture was made in 1955, which was still quite early in his career. He was looking to make pictures that he could sell to magazines. Extremely bold, very graphic, and easily readable when they were printed. This is not the kind of picture that he is famous for or that he would make later in his career, but it shows you sort of his progression over time from somebody who was gearing his work towards photojournalistic work, towards work that was his own, which would become much more ambiguous, much more nuanced, and much less attractive to the magazines. He often marked photographs on his contact sheets, and this was from the very beginning of his career, that he didn't go back and print. Sometimes because he didn't have time, sometimes because he didn't have money, but also because he felt he just by seeing it on the contact sheet and marking it, that he knew that it was there and that he knew what it was going to look like, and said that those marks were very important to him.
Winogrand's work is all about the flow of life, often the very rapid flow of life. Did he photograph the people he photographed because he liked them? I think he photographed them because he was one of them, because collectively they were the world that he inhabited and that he wanted to know. He wanted to see clearly. He wanted to go through this life as a conscious being. By the late 1950s, Winogrand developed a great desire to travel around the United States to see what was there. He would call himself a student of America. One of the things that's extraordinary about Winogrand as an artist is that his own appreciation of the chaotic, the disintegrating, came to be the foundation of his art at just the moment when, in the 1960s, American society as a whole was erupting with great violence.
Say that again.
Winogrand died at the age of 56, very, very suddenly in 1984. At that time, he was living in Los Angeles. One consequence of this was that he left behind a huge amount of work that he never saw. There were 6,634 rolls of film that either were never processed at all, or perhaps the film was developed, but proof sheets were never made. So one way or another, he saw very little of this work.
Obviously, for the later work, we didn't have those marks because he did not develop the film. And so we had to make decisions about the kinds of work that we thought he would have chosen. I think by moving to Los Angeles, he was trying to do something new. He had done New York. Nobody had done New York the way he had done New York. There was a real sort of despairing quality to the 1970s in Los Angeles. And this was very difficult for a photographer who was accustomed to walking the streets and being in places of great human density. So the challenge here was, how do you make a picture on the street of Los Angeles, a place that doesn't have street culture? And so Winogrand struggled mightily to try to find what was the quality of Los Angeles in this period. He says, the world isn't tidy, it's a mess. I don't try to make it neat. And that's what's wonderful about him. Somebody who had that kind of personality was not the kind of person who was going to wrap all of his work up in a tidy little bow and present it to you and say, this is what I was trying to do. What he was trying to do was big and sprawling and messy, and part of it was this. And seeing this, even if it's not perfect and it's not completely resolved, makes you understand Winogrand and where he potentially could have gone if he had lived longer.
You know, photographs or anything, or any works of art that have any real power, play with first of all, they play with what you think you know. They make you question what you think you know. Well, let's put it this way: they just simply make you question your preconceptions.